I'll
Renee,
just
Sean,
talk.
how do you know each other?
We worked together
Hmm.
up until recently. Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yes, we worked really closely together, actually. I came onto the PR team at Bethesda Softworks in
Mm.
late August.
Yeah, it was like late August, early September, or
Hmm.
something like that.
They
Yeah.
had come right out of QuakeCon, which is a very busy season for them. So everybody was
Yeah.
extremely exhausted. So I kind of had a quiet first week.
Yeah, you
But
started like the Tuesday after QuakeCon,
yeah.
and yeah, so just so like we basically, yeah, it's just working constantly throughout the entire summer. I'm actually excited because this summer I'll be able to have a summer because I don't have to work on it. But yeah, so one of the other guys we worked with was like, all right, so Renee will be starting on Tuesday, so can you set aside some time to train her? And I was like, no, no. I, I literally can't do that. I apologize, but I can't.
We're,
Um, but yeah, we sorry Nate. I was just going to say that essentially I joined the team as kind of as an associate PR person, and I worked closely with Sean to help him with a lot of the content creator relations and streaming management. So that's how we vibed.
Mhm.
and then I'm just curious. Were you? So you mentioned kind of being involved in Renee's onboarding training.
Mhm.
Were you involved in the hiring practice at
Mhm.
all? And do you have are you a people manager? Do you have hiring experience?
Yes.
Okay.
So over the course of my career, yeah, I've hired a lot of people. But yeah, it's Renee was the first one in a long time. Because I just didn't have headcount. Like it was just
Yeah.
it was largely just I would participate in interviews for other departments or for the most part. But yeah, with Renee, we had um like the whole team interviewed her because we were a fairly small team. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Really good to know. I already have a follow up question, but I'm gonna save that for a little bit later. Let's get started. We were kind of meandering about and already touching on some of these topics, so let's dive right in. Shelby, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah. I just finished making sure that the Twitch stuff was good. So yeah, well, what can do? So hello everyone. Welcome to our lovely AMA. Um, we have chatted a bit, and I see that Sean posted his bio in live chat. But could you guys speak more about that? Just kind of give a bit of a background on, like, you know, just a bit of a background about you guys.
Renee, you want to start?
Sure. I just realized I never inputted my bio, so I'll just do that uh, right now. But just I've had a pretty eclectic um, career so far. So I guess I'll just go back all the way. I graduated from college in 2016, and that same year I joined this agency out in Los Angeles called Eisenberg Group and was fortunate enough to land on their Xbox team. And during this time, I did a lot of social media management, and we, worked on campaigns like Xbox One X, um, Xbox Game Pass, which was super fun, super great. I got to meet a lot of people over on the Microsoft Xbox team. And so after 2 years of that, I kind of wanted to see what else was out there. So I joined my friend over at this other agency called TBWA Media Arts Lab, which is the ad agency that created the 1984 ad, if you remember that far back.
Wait for
Um,
Apple?
Yeah, for Apple.
This never came up in your interview. I would have had so many questions because I am old enough to remember that.
Well, so I originally came on as an associate producer for that, and it was a contract role, but they enjoyed my work and decided to bring me onto their production company that they were creating called Be Grizzly. So Be Grizzly is relatively new now, and it's kind of the production agency that does a lot of like post production and digital banner ads and stuff like that. So after doing, I managed teams of creatives during that time, did a lot of project management, essentially a lot of budgeting and stuff like that, and decided I kind of wanted to go back into video games and stumbled across work with indies, joined the community, and was really inspired to, get back into games. And so that's how I shot shot my shot shoot my shot however you would say that, with Bethesda Softworks, interviewed, and I got the job somehow, and here I am 6 months later. That was a really long-winded explanation. I'm so
No, that was
sorry.
great.
That was really good.
That was
I
good.
can't believe I just learned things I didn't learn while interviewing you a couple of times.
I'm honestly
That's great.
so happy that you just found that out.
I'm getting something out of this. That's great.
All right, Sean, let's dive in with you.
So I won't go back to the beginning because we'll be here way too long. So I started at Harmonix Music Systems on Karaoke Revolution as a QA person. So basically, that meant that I
Nice.
sang into a microphone 8 to 10 hours a day and tried to crash games with my voice. That was fun. And then I worked in dev for a little bit on Guitar Hero and Rock Band on the early versions of that. But then when Rock Band was getting closer to launching, I became the community manager. I think by the time I left 2010, I want to say our team was about 12 people at that point, because community and PR was sort of combined into one team at that point. So left for a while, then worked in indies for a while at Firehose Games, made my own game with Sheriff Bot called Let's Quip, which was a competitive stand-up comedy mobile app, which was a lot of fun. You can't still play it. That does not exist anymore. But went to Adult Swim, where I worked on Adult Swim games, and then also worked on like writing. You know the bumps like on TV, like the black screen with the white text. Wrote a bunch of those, and then had a streaming show as well on AdultSwim.com. So that was a lot of fun, bit of a dream. Was at Bethesda after that for almost 4 years, and a couple of weeks ago I left and have started at a company that's doing some really cool stuff with creators called Narrativ. That's without an E at the end. I'm director of community over there, so working on a community for content creators.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm still in mourning, just to let you know, Sean.
I know. I miss everybody so much.
That's actually let's kind of dive into that just a little bit. So Renee, you joined the team at Bethesda. And then Sean was part of that interview process. What? So I'm projecting a little bit of myself on this. What percentage of was Sean? What percentage of Sean like went into your decision to accept the role, right? And I guess the question is like, how excited were you to work with Sean, and then how disruptive or shocking was it to you that very soon after you joined, Sean then left? And what I'm then kind of projecting onto the rest of the community is understanding that this happens, right? This is not an infrequent thing. Not just in games, but anywhere turnover exists. So kind of wanting to be prepared, mentally prepared for that, or have that go into some of your decision making, or how you're interviewing your interviewers. So take me behind the scenes and how you're kind of assessing, and then your feelings about that.
Yeah. So during the time that I was interviewing with Bethesda Softworks, I was interviewing with other companies as well. And, a lot of decision making goes behind, and this is just, a general advice, is that you are vetting the companies as well as they are vetting you. So it is important to ask about the culture and get a feel for personalities on the team that you'll be working closely with. And so when I was interviewing at Bethesda Softworks, I really enjoyed the personalities of the entire PR team there. They were very laid back, and of course Sean was actually one of the individual interviews that I went through. There was a very long interview day. I remember it was like 3 hours. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it was very long. And
Yeah.
I remember, Sean had his dogs in the background, and it was a really great first impression. Very personable, very enthusiastic, and yeah, Sean, love you.
Aw.
And I've been part of agencies which are known pretty well for their high turnover, just because you work with a lot of brands, and so you build up your portfolio. It's very easy to kind of move about with the amount of experience that you gain at an agency. So in that sense, I'm a little used to turnover per se. I'm a little used to, changing teams. I've managed teams of, freelancers in the past. So when it comes to, people moving on to a new role, I'm really excited about that. I always hope for the best for my team members. So that's where I stand on that. I'm very happy that Sean gets to be a director. That's
It's
something that's super awesome and amazing. He gets to work
aw.
with content creators, which I know he's super passionate about. So all in all, I'm just excited for him. And in terms of how things have been since he's left, I've taken on a lot more responsibilities, but as someone who, has experienced, managing people and doing a lot of various things, I'm kind of used to the fast paced nature of uh, this industry. So it's just been really fun. I've gotten to learn a lot of different things and meet so many new people. So that's that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On the flip side of this, so Sean, you're involved in the interview process and in the hiring decision. I imagine, similar to other companies, the interview loop, those individuals get together to debrief, come to an agreement. Not sure, what Bethesda does in terms of percentage or consensus or whatever. But what was it about Renee that really stood out to you and set Renee apart from some of the other candidates?
Uh,
Oh
I
no.
mean, I actually remember this incredibly. First of all, we had a lot of really good candidates, as I recall. It is a little bit of a blur because, like I said, I was in the middle of the whole QuakeCon thing, so we were trying to find time to interview while putting all of that stuff on. But I remember we had a lot of people, and they were very, very qualified. Lots of people who were really, really qualified, and good to talk to. All of that. Thing with Renee was more along the lines of being, if probably anything, overqualified for the role that we had, just given her experience at the agencies and all of that ahead of time. And then um, cool as a cucumber in the interview, like unshakable. Not that like, we go in and try to shake anybody or anything like that and like be like, let's see what happens if we do this. No, it's not like that. But more along the lines of just sort of getting under, like, just being able to like basically talking as if she were already on the team. And considering that there is no ramp up, there's just kind of hit the ground running. That's a huge, that's like huge, without a doubt.
Thanks, Sean.
Aw. I stand by it.
It's
Great.
just us hyping each other up
Yep,
throughout this
yep.
entire thing.
We're doing each other's PR.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great. You guys know quite a bit about that. So you also mentioned you interview for, you haven't hired yourself for quite some time, but you participate on interview loops for other teams. So that's an
Yeah.
interesting concept. So you are in, community, PR, and marketing. You're actually participating as an interviewer on for interview loops in other departments, completely unrelated to your role.
No, when I was so it was at Bethesda specifically. When I went from manager to senior PR manager, um, at that point they start bringing you in for interviews with other people, generally in the brand comms team. So brand being marketing, paid media, CRM, all of that. But largely brand, pretty much is what like the brand manager is sitting in on an incredible amount of associate brand manager interviews. So that was largely what that was. So it would be just to have a voice from somebody who wasn't directly on the team, but who would be interacting to kind of get their thing. So they generally bring in at least one of us for most of those interviews.
Right. So I found that that's helpful for a variety of reasons when you get a diversity, kind of perspectives. Also, the team itself, they have an incentive to fill an open role, right? They're like,
Mhm.
there's work that needs to get done. So we're like, we really want to hire this person. So if you have somebody who isn't, doesn't have a bias to, want to offload a bunch of this work, they can kind of be a gut check against some enthusiasm, that the
Yeah.
other team or the hiring manager might have. Does that kind of ring true for you? And is there any other, kind of benefits that you see from, that diversity perspective?
Yeah, I think it definitely does for a number of reasons. One, I think just as there's basically nothing you're going to work on in video games at this point that isn't cross-functional to some extent. Video games or and tech in general, it's cross-functional. You're going to be working with people, so it's best to also have somebody from the other side who's like, well, I'm not on this person's team, but we are going to be working together, so I should probably have some sort of input on this situation. So I think that's really, really helpful. But I also think, what is the best way to put this? Is if you have a team and everybody is like-minded due to what they do for work and along a structure, it if it's if you've just hired too many people who are exactly the same, it becomes I'm just going to use the phrase I use and I call it intellectual inbreeding, where
Yeah.
because people are just constantly on the same wavelength exactly and do not deviate from that, that's not good. That's not healthy for long term for a team, because that new ideas don't show up and that sort of thing. So I think that's really, really important. For me, I see the benefit of having people from the outside be like, yeah, I don't know though.
Right.
Yeah, I want somebody who's going to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that was it's been one of my competitive advantages. I didn't go to school. Like, I barely graduated high school. In fact, it took me 5 years to do so. But I've been in kind of publisher developer relations roles that, similar to you get to touch a little bit of everything in
Mhm.
games. And I found that, for example, when I would be in marketing meetings, that people would tend to gravitate towards me and my ideas because they were new, different, and novel. And that's because I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that went to school for marketing. They all read the same books.
Mhm.
I never read those books. I don't know the title of the book, right? So I'm
Right.
just kind of throwing stuff out there that I'm not trained to do, but what I thought was right from a player or a customer perspective.
Yeah.
And those ideas won like so many times, right? So that can
Yeah.
be a real competitive advantage to not have the training, right?
Mhm.
To
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I agree with you entirely. I did not graduate from college, and when I was there, I was a theater major, so there it is. Uh, but yeah, I think part of it is, you're just coming at it from another direction and that sort of thing. That really, really, really incredibly helps. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the time, you want a different perspective and come at it from different angles, and that's why I also think it's really important to have a team that's as diverse as possible,
Right.
because you want ideas coming from all different directions and backgrounds. And
All right. I know Shelby has some more questions herself because she's excited about this area, obviously, and we've got some questions from the community. So I'm going to shut up soon, but I do have a couple more questions around kind of career path, hiring and development, and then I guess we could jump into more of the community marketing PR questions. And still sticking with you here, Sean, I'm really interested to hear about your journey here. So I know it was a while ago, but let's go back. We might be about the same age because I worked on Karaoke Revolution as a publisher
there we
relations
go.
account manager, working with Konami when I was at PlayStation. So I helped kind of partner and bring that product together. I'm in the credits for the first two Guitar Heroes
Oh, very
because
nice.
we were the ones who actually, after Red Octane got denied by 50 or so publishers, they then were going to go the self-publishing route, and we ended up helping them get licensed and get their stuff
Yeah,
together to bring them to market. So
I
that's pretty
remember
neat. But you
that.
started in QA at
Yeah,
Harmonix. I started in customer service at PlayStation,
yeah.
and I know a bunch of folks in QA that, just like you, are now in that started in QA that are now in leadership positions, executive leadership positions throughout games. And that's always really encouraging for me to meet somebody else has gone that path. So
Yeah.
can you take me to through that journey? How does somebody, one, not everybody here, like QA is totally a valid career, and I also know people that have
Hmm.
stayed in QA the entire time and
Yeah.
are very, very happy there. But one, getting started QA, how does one go from QA to then you said into kind of the dev team and then into community? What's that path look like? How's that even possible? How's that beneficial?
Yeah.
How were you able to make that leap?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I was in QA, so I just love saying this because I think it kind of always blows people's minds, including my own when I think back. I was in QA so long ago that the entire QA team had one computer to share. So we would go off to different rooms and with our PlayStation testing units, write down all of the bugs we saw in a notebook, and then check out time on the computer like it was a library computer to log our bugs on, at the time, Konami's bug database, which had been made by just one of the QA managers and was maybe the slowest HTML I've ever seen in my life. So it was a while ago. So basically, what happened is I just started. I was really excited. I was a little bit older, and I think because I was, oh, geez, 26, 27 when I started in QA. I'd been like a playwright and an actor before that. So, this was kind of very, very different for me. But when I got there, I was so excited. I just took everything they gave to me, every opportunity that would needed something. Anybody, if anybody needed to do just the crap work, I'm on it 100%, and just showing how much I wanted to help there. Learned everything I could, made sure to talk with the programmers and stuff, because I really felt like that the coding team was a great way of finding out how the game really worked, and you wrote better bugs and did better testing when you kind of knew the guts of it a little bit more. So as I learned more, it was a small team, right? It was, it's a East Coast game developer, which I think did change things at the time because there wasn't a whole lot of competition. Boston had a little bit of a scene, but not it's certainly not like LA or the Bay Area or Toronto or anything like that.
Right.
So so just talk to anybody I can, that sort of thing, and eventually moved into tech art because it just seemed to be a nice place for me to work. Unfortunately, that ended up not being true because I wasn't good at tech art. So my mentor at the time, Mike Dornbrook, who he ran sort of marketing and the
Mm-hmm.
business for Harmonix.
Yep.
He also was the guy, he was the president of Infocom in the 80s. So they made Zork and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all those text adventures. So he'd been in the industry since there was an industry for all intents and purposes. And just from our conversations, he was like, I feel like you would probably be good at like talking to people. You seem to be good at talking to people. So they just had me on the forums and stuff like that. And as the tech artist, I was still just like in there. So when they needed a team, they kind of put me into it. But basically, a lot of times my career has been just following the thing that I'm really interested to do, or and then when I'm there, doing all of the things that need to get done. And I think that's kind of, I'm not going to say the secret sauce, but I think it's my secret sauce.
Yeah, I think we all have our own paths, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's always asks what's the path to get into games as a X, right? And it's like
Mhm.
you talk to 100 people that are in games, and you will have 100 different kind of pathways and journeys. But
Yeah.
that's something, that route, that strategy worked for you. It could definitely work for many, many others. And I think it sounds very similar to my strategy, which was um, whatever role that I was in, I was going to crush it. And
Hmm.
my goal, my purpose was to get my boss promoted. It was like make their
There you
life
go.
as easy as possible, get them a promotion, and when I reward them with that, they will then reward me. Right.
Yeah.
So when they get promoted, guess who else gets promoted? Right. Then the next promotion cycle is them elevating me into their prior role.
Yeah.
And that's worked. Right. Every my first 12 years of my career, it was basically just following bosses, around into their roles, or when they changed departments, them bringing me over to make their life easier and to get them promoted again.
Hmm.
Right. Until, at some point, I was able to kind of meet or maybe exceed, kind of the master after a period of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, your role of like find something that you're really interested in, which then means you're going to be enthusiastic about it.
Yep.
And then when you're enthusiastic about things, you're more likely to be good at it, or at least willing to persevere through kind of the learning
Yeah.
phase, like through the tough spots, to then eventually get good at it.
Hmm.
Right? If you're not really enthusiastic or interested, it's hard to be kind of resilient and break through some of those obstacles.
Very much so.
And then just like get stuff done, right? Be the person that people look to you like as the source and kind of the problem solver. That's a pretty good look that will often get rewarded.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it can't be, be collaborative, be good at working on a team, and bring. I think there's something to what you said too. Is also just bring up the people around you. And like you said about your boss too, like, helping to get them promoted. But I think there's also and then also put down a ladder behind you.
Yep,
When you climb
absolutely.
up to the next level, bring people other people up to give other people opportunities. I've hired so many people over the years who, have been or eventually will be much, much better than me. And
Yeah,
that's
that's the
probably the thing I'm most proud of in this entire industry.
you and I we need to talk more. We're so very aligned on that. It's something that I'm also super proud of. It became one of my early hiring mantras, which was hire your replacement.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
hire the person that could at minimum do the job that you're going to be able to do, and then maybe take that much further. Yeah. Awesome. All right. I'm going to take a step back here. I've got a few more questions, but there might not be any more time for me. So, Shelby, if you wanted to take it away with kind of your questions and questions from the community, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. So the first question that I had is more kind of a general question, and also for the audience, because we have had community and social, and we've had, QA on our panels before, but I don't think we've had two people who have worked directly with like what I call partnership management with creators.
Mhm.
So my question to both of you is, what if you were going to explain to someone who had no idea what partnership creator management was, how would you explain it to them? What do you do?
Oh, Renee, you start.
And you can't say
Oh my gosh.
glorified babysitter.
Cat herder. No, yeah.
No. Well, you have to understand that my experience with content creator pretty much is within the time that I worked at Bethesda Softworks. And so I pretty much supported Sean up to the time that he left. And so, in a brief sense, working with content creators has been just it's been interesting because when you're working in the industry, you're working with a lot of, I'd say, corporate personalities, if you will. Just very, tidied personalities, how to talk the business speak. But when you work outside of that with content creators, there's just this kind of genuine nature. We work a lot with the Noir Network, and I talk a lot with that community, and they're just so genuine and enthusiastic about streaming and games, and it is refreshing in a sense.
Mhm.
Sean.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially about Noir Network, who are legitimately my favorite people on earth.
Mhm.
Yeah, like 100%. So, but yeah, so it's changed a lot. So I've been working with influencers as the core part of my job, no matter what I did, whether it was product marketing or PR or whatever, over the past now 11 years, so 2011. And it has changed significantly. Early days of Twitch, um, it was the Wild West. People were just stoked to play games. Ostensibly, there was money in it, but nobody knew where the money was coming from or where it was going. So it was more just sort of like, "Hey, want to try my game?" And we had a game called Go Home Dinosaurs, and I got it to a couple of YouTubers and also to a couple of Twitch streamers, and that felt like the hugest thing in the entire world and like the coolest thing. But what do I think it is? So in general, it kind of it kind of is different, especially in my experience where I have almost never, with the exception of the past, 6 or 7 months where Renee was working with me, I have largely been a solo shop. Anywhere I've been, I've had to kind of do it all on my own and that sort of thing. And part of it would be organic, just talking to people who doing looking up people who you think would enjoy the game, like the game, understand it, be able to communicate that sort of thing, reaching out to them, seeing if they want a free copy, the more organic route. And then also, handling, if we're doing paid activations, handling the contract phase, conversation with the sometimes managers and agents and all of that. So it kind of covers a lot of territory, but I would say most of it is just having conversations with people who you think would like
Mhm.
something.
Mhm. Agreed.
Yeah. I have like a very small background with partnership management. I did a 3-month contract stint at Noise.
Yeah.
And so I worked there, and it was a very fun time. That's what I will say.
Yeah.
It was very fun because you get to talk to so many different people.
Mhm.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's the thing I became passionate about. Like, that's why, like, even though I've now moved out of games for the first time in my entire adult career, 18 years, I'm staying with working with creators because that is the thing that I'm passionate about. Getting to
Mhm.
work with people who are that creative and also running their own brand and their own small business and making it work and trying to find a way to make it work. There's something very, very, very exciting about that. And being around that sort of hustle
Mhm.
is awesome. Like, it gives me energy. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I feel very passionate about that. And I also feel very protective
Yeah.
of creators as well. Like, anytime we'd be like, when E3 existed, uh, meeting up with some of the creators that I'd been talking to for years and stuff like that, and I would just take them out to dinner on the corporate card, not even to really do business, but really just to just make sure they're eating I had that sort of
Mhm.
like feeling. It was like, I just want to make sure you're okay. I want to make sure you're eating. I want to make sure everything is like that you're taking care of yourself. Like that's really, really important. So yeah, there is a personal aspect to it as well.
Yeah, if I was gonna say it's not just, at least from what you've said, it's not just, oh, we're here to like do contracts. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm trying, like you're making the contract with someone, but you're doing it because you know that this will help them in their own personal like branding and career
Yeah.
as well. So,
I
yep.
would never want to hunt down a deal that I think would ultimately harm a content creator or their ability to make their content.
Hmm.
That would like I don't want to rob creativity uh, from content creators. That would really make me sad.
Hmm. And I guess to go from that, I know that a lot of people will try to, and they do, they kind of take community, social, and creator management, and they kind of lump those together, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. I've seen that happen.
Mm,
And so I'm
mhm.
wondering, I guess the question is, one question I had was what kind of like skills do you think would be like easily transferable between the three? And then and then on top of that, what is something that stands out to you when you were, hiring for like creator management? Like what skills do you think people really need to have and able to stand out?
The
Uh,
ability
yeah, go
to
ahead.
stay calm under pressure.
Hmm.
It's a big one.
Yeah. I think stress comes along with any job, right? Uh, but the ability to kind of manage that stress and, you have to put everything in perspective. Just, this is a job and you will get it done at the end of the day. So that and being able to prioritize, being able to kind of project manage things in general and make sure you're prioritizing tasks properly and just keeping it a level head, I think, is the most transferable skill set you can have amongst all of those different kind of career trajectories, because I was in social media and I know a lot of people who do community, and I'm now in PR and content creator management. And I do have to say, all of those career paths are very different.
Yep.
As most people know, they're completely separate career paths. And just I from my own experience, I know that, you know, being able to be organized and having a level head has been the most transferable amongst those.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that
Hmm.
that is really, really big because it is super intense all of the time, in a lot of ways. You'd think it wouldn't. It's video games, but like, yeah, it is though. So, but I think also just like the ability to communicate with people at, because I feel like if I say at their level, that it sounds like, oh yeah, you got to learn to talk down to people, and that's literally not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is more being able to talk to people about the things that matter to them and be able to
Mhm.
be compassionate about that. Because you're going to be talking to all sorts of different creators who all have a different reason for doing this, all have different passions and everything. And you don't want to just take whatever brand you're repping and just shove it down people's throats. You're trying to talk to a person and find where the connection points are, and that's really important, to be sort of open minded and have those communications, be able to communicate with people that way. To me, I think that is also a joining thing across community and influencers and probably social media. That would be my impression. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
concur.
that's key, right? I mean, what we're talking about here, whether you're on social, whether you're in Discord, you're managing communities, whether you are managing relationships, with content creators, or in my case, publishers, developers, they're all, the key word there is relationships,
Hmm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
relationships communication starts with listening.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to listen first, right? And then listening, you can then understand, a person's interests, their motivations, their incentives, and then you can kind of align, what you're working on with, kind of meeting them where they are.
Yeah. I also think the other thing between those three positions, and it kind of ties into it, is they're all three of them are meat shield positions. Like they're all like,
Stop.
I mean, they kind of are, right? They're all kind of like frontline stuff. You're probably going to be the first people to see the abuse or something like that that's happening, and that becomes part of it as well. Like because and being able to diffuse that sort of thing and have those conversations. So I think that is kind of and I mean that's I think why we also naturally fit into PR because PR is in that same thing too. It's front facing.
Yeah. You just got to learn. You got to be able to talk to people. That's what. Let's see. We've got about like 15-ish minutes left. So I'm going to ask a question from the audience that Sarah posted. So we're kind of moving to more communications community roles. But she asked, what do you think are the most valuable skills for someone to develop when they're trying to move into a senior and then eventually director level communications community role?
Ooh, so for that, I think so. It's the ability to do the sort of background clerical work. For me, one thing that's always come very natural is if you drop me off at a convention with just like whatever, I can just go up to talk to anybody and figure it out. But one thing that's always been hard for me to do is do a really, I didn't graduate from college, do a really well designed essay or PowerPoint presentation. You know what I mean? Like that's really organized and all of that. And then once you start move into sort of more senior management, and then you move into director type stuff, a lot more of what you're doing is sort of plans, paperwork, team building and stuff. In a lot of ways, your new job is to support the people who work for you. And to make sure that they can grow, that they have a path, that they feel activated, and that is a different skill set than just like doing the work. Planning and making it so that the work can get done is those are kind of the skills that end up being important, and making persuasive arguments to upper management about things that you're arguing for. Those are the things that end up becoming important over the just sort of communicating with the audience.
Gotcha. Okay. And then let's see. And then Harrison also wanted to know, ask the same question, but for more junior or unexperienced folks. So, what kind of skills do they need to work on, that they need to have on their resume, just applying to get in?
Yeah, I guess reframing that, you
Mhm.
mentioned, Renee, things like, level-headed, stress management, and kind of organizational skills. How would how would you, when you're hiring, how do you screen for that, and how does somebody display that on either their resume or in an interview?
Right. So whether you've, let's see, how can I explain this? When I was applying after college, I learned very early on that you should QC your resumes because I had applied to a position and my phone number was incorrect on the resume.
Oh,
And
I
from
did
that
that
point
too.
on, you did that too? I'm glad I
Yeah,
wasn't the
just
only one.
last fall. Yeah, when I applied for this job, I did.
Oh man, but you got it.
I still got it.
Yeah, and it's the kind of attention to detail, you know, the care that someone has taken with their resume and cover letter, especially. Cover letters, I know it's kind of really such a task. It's very taxing, it's very time consuming, but I've learned with cover letters especially that taking the time to understand where you're applying to and learn about the company, learn about what it is that they do, and being able to take that care and time into your cover letter shows that you have dedicated at least some time to applying for the position and really taking the thoughtful nature to applying to the position. As far as, vetting for those kinds of qualities and skills, you find that out through maybe references, which, I mean, we can also go into, maybe references aren't such a good thing, or maybe they are a good thing. Um, but there are ways that you can vet, somebody's ability to, be able to succeed in a job, including whether they have a website, or, if they're trying to go into social media, how much on social media are they doing? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Reddit? Are they on Twitter? Pinterest? Are they across the board utilizing social media in a thoughtful manner? Would that skill be able to translate to the brand? Would they be able to be successful in the role that they're applying to in that sense? And then, for like writing positions or PR, have you participated in a writing club, or have you participated in journalism classes, or, your school newspaper and stuff like that? I'd say just trying to get yourself out there in as many activities as possible will show that you're dedicated to, you know, learning and uh, getting the job done.
All right, cool. Thanks, Renee. Let's go back up towards the beginning. So Harrison asked another question. How do you manage communicating PR plans or strategies with other employees, either during an emergency or in general? And do companies restrict what employees can post? Or is the my opinions are my own in your bio enough? I think maybe related to that, thinking about some of the emergencies, a lot of PR gets noticed when a release comes out and it was received negatively, right? So I'd actually love to kind of hear some thoughts, kind of behind the scenes, how the team then kind of comes together, reacts, and thinks about addressing those things. And I don't know, it might be useful to think about maybe a specific example, even if you can't give us those details.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well,
I'm trying to think of like a bad Bethesda PR thing, but it's been a long, long time since Horse Armor.
Well, I would say I know the first step, and the first step is anytime where it's like one of those things happen. The first thing to do is get together with your pod, like your group,
And
generally the
panic. And
PR
panic.
team, and go into a room and just swear like a lot. Have a whole bunch of swears, get it out of your system. Because what you gotta obviously your knee jerk reaction is to be like, well, and I think this is just sort of natural, is just to be like, yeah, they don't understand, they don't get it, like that sort of thing, which is almost never the case. I mean, sometimes it's the case, certainly, but in general it's just because something wasn't quite up to snuff. But you have to kind of acknowledge the fact that you're going to react negatively to it first, to other people reacting negatively, and then get it out of your system, and then set about with the team trying to find the most positive, and I think this is going to shock a lot of people, the most honest way through. Like people think of PR as lies, and that's absolutely not true. And any PR person who is just blatantly lying isn't doing PR, they're doing marketing. I'm just kidding on that last part. That was a joke.
That was
That
good.
was a
It was
joke.
good.
That was a joke. But yeah, you're like you want to find a way to re-communicate what you were communicating more clearly, more honestly, in a way that people understand. I think not nothing, and also you need to accept, because I've also seen this many times in my career, where you'll put something out and three people who are very loud hate it, and then people who are not quite as acclimated to the PR lifestyle think there's an emergency there, instead of just three people who've had a bad day and are taking it out on us. And you need to know the difference between those two things, because you don't want to overreact to something that's just not a problem. So,
Right. You got to find the
yeah,
balance between overreaction and underreaction. But yes, there is, vocal
yeah,
minority is a phrase, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's a thing.
Right. So you really want to kind of evaluate first, like what the actual issue is, what the scope of the issue is, and whether you're whether by trying to course correct, whether you're actually making an issue worse, or making it better, because your job is to make it better. So yeah.
All right. Shebert has a question about kind of team sizes. I imagine that varies quite a bit. I guess related. Can you tell us about what your experience was like, kind of working in comms for somebody like a Firehose at an indie studio, and versus a Bethesda? What are some of the kind of key not not widely known kind of differences between working in an indie company and a massive AAA studio?
Um, when you work at indies, you gotta, and I love this about it. And I think somebody else asked questions like, "What's the best way to get experience?" And I would say working with indies, because you have to wear so many hats. Like, most indie game companies are not like Hello Games or something like that, where they have a team and they have like a lot of support. A lot of times when I worked at Firehose, I think there were five of us. We rented an office in an old abandoned factory. Like, it's so you gotta, like, I was hired as their PR marketing person, and I also became their community person, and I was designing my own game, and I was also directing audio, like VO sessions for Go Home Dinosaurs, and doing VO and do it. Like, you just have to learn how to do everything, because a lot of stuff needs to get done, and there's not enough people to wear all those hats. So in that, I would say no. There's just kind of like everybody kind of like doing the thing that needs to get done, and you gotta, like I said, wear a lot of hats there. And then when you move up to something like Bethesda, or even when I was at Adult Swim Games, which was an indie game company inside of a channel that's only on for a few hours, inside of a channel that's on for 24 hours, as part of a network that's just in Atlanta as part of
Yeah.
Time Warner Cable. So you really do feel like an indie company inside of a gigantic conglomerate. That we have a little bit more specialized roles. And then, moving to a company that specializes in games, it's specifically like a publisher and developer. There's more people, but I would say Bethesda is not like a lot of the other publishers, which will have a lot of specified positions and stuff like that, and a lot of people underneath that. I was working as until Renee started. I was the handling all of the influencers, and handling a global influencer strategy uh, by myself. And then I was also handling streaming strategy and streaming like how we streamed on Twitch and all of that, and global strategy for that. And that was just me, which is a lot. So yeah, so it can kind of change. And then you'll have like an Ubi or something like that, and they're going to have a lot more specialized positions, a lot more headcount, a lot more people doing things like that. Yeah.
Right. Cool. We're almost out of time. How are you two on time? Do you have to leave right on the hour?
Let me check
You
my
could absolutely say
work
yes.
schedule. I don't have to leave right on the hour, but do you, Renee?
I have, coincidentally enough, I have this streaming meeting, but they are on a Slack channel with me, messaging me as this is happening. And
Okay.
Tell them I said hello live on the air.
They are watching this right now. So.
Okay. Hi. Hi, you all. I miss you.
So I think they will be okay if I'm a little bit late.
Okay, we only got a couple more. So Ian asks, for people that aren't currently in the game industry but are working in an adjacent field like esports brand marketing, what advice would you give for them when they're trying to break into the industry? And then related, or maybe separate, depending on where you want to go, what's one thing that you wish you knew before starting at Bethesda that would have helped you out from day one?
Starting at what I wish I knew before I started at Bethesda.
I guess what was one of the biggest surprises, during your first 3 months in the role?
Well, for me, I worked at agencies. So at agencies, it's a constant go, go, go type of really, truly fast paced environment. Even when I was in post production doing commercials, commercial post production, uh, it was still the sense of urgency because we were creating products for a company that was paying our company for the products. So overall it was just urgent, 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 urgent. What I didn't realize was coming in-house at a game studio was that it would be not not relaxed. It's more so that um it was like more understanding of the time it takes to get a project done.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I wish I knew to chill out when I took this, because I just went, coming out of an agency, coming out of all the jobs that I've been through, I always felt, I, lack of a better word, on edge. Like I always had that, like, I need to keep going. I need to go, 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 go. I need to get this done right now. And what I learned at Bethesda Softworks is that sometimes things can't get done right now. It has
Yeah.
to come out of pace. So,
Do you
yeah.
think, would you say, is your opinion working in a fast pace environment, is that is that necessarily a bad thing?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad thing because I learned a lot while at a fast-paced kind of agency. I worked in social media, and of course, there's the kind of old age social media never sleeps, which Nate, you and I talked about a long time ago. How neither of us believes in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the kind of thinking that my old agency had, because it's Xbox, which is a complete global brand. So you want to be, striking everybody everywhere. So, yeah, it was definitely a strange transition from that kind of fast pacedness to the slow pacedness. But in terms of if I think it's beneficial, um, sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's beneficial for somebody's work ethic in my sense, but maybe if it's not, it might not be beneficial to someone who can't you know handle that kind of fast pacedness, which is totally fine. I think that's completely fine.
Cool. So going back to the question of kind of moving from an adjacent field, not in games, into games. One thing, I mean, Sean, feel free to jump in here, but I would just point out, Sean and I were talking earlier about how an outsider's perspective can be a real competitive advantage,
Mhm.
right? And I imagine, Ian, what you would be looking for, you're going to find more success. It's not like you can necessarily identify them pre-application, right? But you're likely to find individuals, teams, companies that are excited that you don't have games experience, that you are coming in with a very fresh perspective, and in whether it's on your resume, your cover letter, or in the interviews, you're highlighting things for them that they can't currently see, that they haven't seen before, that they're excited about, because we're all so siloed and we have our tunnel vision. We look at things from the lens of games, and games is not the entire world. So you're going to be able to bring a unique perspective, different tools, different learnings from other industries, into that team, that games team, and then as a result, level them up, make them better, increase their knowledge base, right? So what you want to
Yeah.
look for is a team that is actually looking for that. And maybe there are teams. Yes, I think this is true. There are teams, there are individuals like, I need somebody who understands games, right? And I will say either maybe they're a little bit narrow minded, or maybe they have a really, really small team and they're trying to build from there. So, like, the larger the team, the more diversity you can then, you want to then bring into the team. But those are probably people that you don't necessarily want to work with, because they're not going to be all that welcoming and approachable and accessible to you. So then just move on and find the studio, find the team, find the hiring manager that is really specifically excited about your unique qualities that you're going to bring to that team. Sean, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely. I mean, the truth of the matter is, if you, I think I might have even said this. I think I told, I know, I think I mentioned this to Renee, but while we were hiring, I remember saying to the team, I was like, here's the thing. When we hire somebody, I frankly do not care if they are a fan of our games. I just want to know that they're a fan of their job,
Yeah.
and that will help a lot. Because you want people who are passionate, not just about the game space, but just doing their job. And if you were somewhere else doing the job, and your business and that sort of thing, learning the games aspect of it really isn't as big of a deal as learning the how to do PR or how to do community or all of that. If you already have that, then it's translatable 100%. And I agree with Nate. Like, look for teams that are looking for an outsider's perspective too.
Yeah, we had Salim from Co-op in here, and Salim admitted that they started, and they still primarily are, a bunch of people from outside of games. Like, all of Co-op's games that have been made, to date, are from outsiders that came together and decided that they were going to try to figure it out and make games. And now they're actually looking to diversify their team with more game knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So they built it first without game knowledge, and now they're actually saying, hey, maybe there's some things that we could learn from insiders in this industry.
I think that's really powerful. Yeah. Oh, actually, there's one question here I wanted to answer if I could,
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
because I'm really excited about this. So Mohammed Bagar wrote, how do you come up and decide upon a unique brand tone for an indie studio? And I would like to tell you something that I learned that is probably the most valuable thing I have learned in my entire life, as far as creativity goes and collaborative creativity and all of that. And it's something that I really think is important. So when I was at Adult Swim and working on writing the bumps for TV, with its large group of people and all of that, the one of the people who headed that up was Mike Lazo, who actually started Adult Swim and in a lot of ways was kind of a hero of mine, just for his perspective on the creative process and all of that. And when they would have writers' rooms, writers' table, and this goes back to the early days of Adult Swim, and he would also mention this is also for marketing, this is for branding, this is for everything. Get a bunch of people together, sit them around the table, and then just start spitting out ideas. And inevitably, somebody's going to come up with an idea that sounds so ridiculous, so goofy, so just out there and everything, that everybody at the table is going to laugh. And then as they start brainstorming after that, we'll keep referencing back to that as a joke. Go with that idea. the idea that people can't get out of their head, the thing that, even if it seems bizarre, whatever like that, go with the thing that people can't forget, especially with brand tone, anything like that. You really are trying to go with something that's memorable, that makes an impression. So find the thing that seems too ridiculous to do and then do that thing. So that's still, to me, the most valuable advice I've probably ever received in this industry, and I'm thankful for it every day, and I live by that. So yeah,
I love that so much. That's the clip. That's the clip for the show.
And also shout out to Mike Lazo wherever he is now. I know he retired a couple years back, and just an absolute genius. And I hope he's enjoying himself on a golf course as we speak.
All right. I apologize we didn't get to all of the questions, but we are now about 10 minutes over, and Renee and her friends who are watching have got to get going on their other meeting. So I'm going to cut us long here, and thank you greatly for your time, your insights. This was a lot of fun. Really had a great time meeting you, Sean. Let's chat again in the future. And then thanks everybody for all the questions and joining us today. Thanks, Catherine and Shelby, for setting everything up and helping out with the event.
And yeah, thanks for having us. And Renee, it was great to be on a panel with you.
It was great hearing from you again, Sean. I'm so happy.
I know it's been like a whole 2 weeks, but
I know. I missed you. Thanks for having us, everyone.
All right, awesome. And just a quick warning, I'm going to exit out of the stage here, but we could still hear each other on Zencastr, so don't start smack talking each other just yet.
Won't guarantee that.
Can't guarantee that at all.
Bye, everybody.